Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best live YouTube stream to talk about markets. Welcome back, guys. I hope we've had a good morning so far, a great weekend over the last few days, enjoying the holiday season, perhaps. At least that's what I was doing. Some Christmas shopping, spending time with friends, socializing. But we're back at the grindstone now. Welcome back. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Jackus, Max, and of course, Big Louie. We're going to cook you guys up a fantastic show today, right? We got to set the week off on the right foot. We're going to have a great week of shows, hopefully a great week of markets. I mean, we've got FOMC later this week. It's been a while since I've had to talk to you guys about FOMC, but alas, here we are again. Jerome Powell will be a topic of discussion, maybe the next Fed chair. And of course, obviously, we've got some very big things as far as quad witching goes here in 2 weeks. How will these things impact the market? Will they impact the market at all? We're going to talk about all of that and then some. But before we can, I think, get more in depth about the analysis, right? Talk about what we saw on Bitcoin, on ETH. There's a BlackRock staking ETF after all. Saylor bought a bunch of Bitcoin. Going to ask you guys to hit that like button for us. Let's run it up. Let's have a great week of hitting the like button. We have been in a bear market for likes.
Smash the like button.
We are trying to form an accumulation range and eventually break out from this like button bear market. I won't make too many jokes about it. You guys know the drill at this point. Let's get into the meat of the show because it is a very big week. It's a very big next 2 weeks. I kind of mentioned the things that could potentially impact the market here over, like I said, the next 2 weeks. You've got FOMC on Wednesday. Are they going to cut rates? It certainly looks like it. Does that mean long end yields will go down? Right now, the 10-year is up 1%, something that we'll have to talk about. You also have quad witching next Friday, which tends to have a lot of positioning come off the board. How will we trade into that event? And of course, we have a BOJ rate decision next week as well. This week, though, really over the last 24 hours, we had Saylor buy, I think, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy stock isn't really doing that much, but obviously Bitcoin pumped all the way up to like 91.5K. Is that a test pump before higher prices this week? Or was that all that the bulls could muster before we continue either this range or chop down, or rather this move down that we've seen? Because a lot of altcoins, they still don't look very good, right? I think ETH Bitcoin looks good, up 2%. ETH getting the news that BlackRock has filed for a staking ETH ETF. Nice to know that they have not forgotten about that. But I feel like altcoins are very much haves and have-nots right now. And that's something that we've said a lot over the course of this cycle, right? ETH is strong. I mean, Sol is up 3%, but I wouldn't consider it structurally strong. Hyperliquid is most certainly not structurally strong. Zcash is giving you a huge bounce to start the week. I actually think Fartcoin doesn't look the worst here when we're talking about risk-on signals. So altcoins kind of giving us this mixed bag where we're kind of just waiting to see what majors are going to do here over the next 2 weeks to confirm whether or not the bottom is in or whether or not this downtrend is going to continue. And obviously, we have to answer the question about who is leading or lagging. Is crypto leading an equity market downturn, or are equities so strong that they're going to drag crypto back into the bull market? Let's talk about it, guys. What are we seeing in the markets? Did we do anything fun, anything familiar or around our family over the course of the weekend? Let me know what's on your mind.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I had a nice weekend with my family. Nice little future squeeze yesterday, I guess, kind of midday, but it was one of those things where it's kind of free money if you hammer that, because there's like a 3,000 point CME gap and it's just moves up so quickly. But yeah, I mean, look, I think there's some stuff to be optimistic about for sure. And I think there is opportunity out there, but generally, like when I look at these structures, it's not exactly how typical bottoms look to me. We've left behind a lot of lows. I think there's a decent bit of effort being put in here, but Yeah, I'm not so confident that I would say like the bottom is for sure in here. You know, I'm open to, you know, some moves higher. That's fine. But, you know, I generally I think there's a little bit of cleanup that we have to do towards the bottom side of, you know, these local ranges. But I'll kind of leave it at that and we'll have more of a discussion. So that's what's going on with me.
Yeah. I went to the city with the family. We saw the Rockettes. That was cool. First time for my son going there, so that was fun. Got to see the big tree. Yeah, just studied family. Wasn't really at the desk for that little squeeze we saw yesterday, but again, Sunday pump. You know, history tells us not to be trusted, right? So we'll see. And I'm kind of in that same camp as Max. Like, yeah, looking decent, looking okay. We're at some market structure here. Do I think this is where we bottom? Probably not, sadly. You know, after a significant breakdown, you know, market structure break of our highs from back in the beginning of the year, trend line break. Sure, we could see a bounce, underside retest. I think if we do bounce, that's just going to add more time and pain for the inevitable trip down into this area, in my opinion. But playing it day by day, right? Playing it day by day. And as Tommy said, you know, our equity is going to remain strong. If so, I think we could see a big bounce out of Bitcoin and crypto that's worth playing. But if not, and if equities do start to show some weakness, potentially roll over here, I think that next plunge to the downside is coming. And I think that's going to be the one for buying, not here, but if we get a plunge down into this area, I will be open to buying some coins on the cheap.
Louis, you sound so sad, bro.
I don't like talking like this, man. I'm a bull at heart, man.
You sound sad. Like it's like you truly are like hurt by this market. Like you know, like how could it betray you like this? You know?
Yeah.
You sound like you are tired of winning, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I was also up all night with my son, so that can add to it.
That's probably the majority of it. You're probably just daddy mode tired.
Yeah. If we go that. Yeah, that's me. Nicholas says if we go that low, you go sub 20K. I would disagree. I would say you could definitely come down into this market structure and into the 2021 all-time highs. I would say you could definitely come here and be okay. But if you come here and you can't hold the 2021 cycle all-time highs and this 8-month consolidation market structure we have here, yes, you are definitely at risk of coming much lower and probably entering a multi-year style bear market for Bitcoin. So I would say if you lose this, if you come down here and don't hold this level, yeah, I would agree with you. Absolutely. Maybe 20K, maybe not that low, but you're definitely in for some longer term time-based pain. Whereas if you can stab down to this area, the earlier the better, hold it, maintain it. I think you have the ability to sustain a nice rally back to the upside. And then maybe we finally see altcoins have their time to shine. So.
Hello.
Anyone there?
Jack Brady.
You guys
What's up with you?
Me, right?
Huh?
You guys hear me, right?
Yeah, of course.
We hear you.
Oh, okay. I was just talking to myself for a second.
No. Guys, we have FOMC on Wednesday, last FOMC of the year. The past year will be discussed and the next year projection will be too. But the eternal question is, what tie will Powell wear? And how does it affect my shitcoins?
Will Powell be buying our shit coins? The tie will tell you
Well,
everything.
Is
Truth
this
be
his last
told-
FOMC?
Yeah, last FOMC of the year. But truth be told, the new chair of SEC was discussing, or not discussing, he was actually saying that, or he is generally promoting tokenization and the blockchain, and how equities should move over to blockchain, basically. And I found that to be quite insane, comparing it to Gary Gensler, right? Paula Atkins is the current one. How Gary Gensler was like, this is security and this is security, and your mama is security and everything is a security. And generally just rooting against everything crypto-wise. And now the current chair is saying that the financial markets in general, or the instruments should be transferred to the blockchain, and how much benefits it has, which we already know. We knew that all along, but him saying that, I think, is pretty. It's a big shift in how the officials speak nowadays. That obviously doesn't mean that, unfortunately, that the price will go to the moon immediately after him saying it. We know that there is a lag time, and that lag can be even, on a yearly basis. But I still think that the space is simply destined for much better future. But unfortunately, right now we have to deal with this shit. So, yeah.
Kind of funny. As soon as Gensler left, like, too much crime happened. It's like we all wanted bullish crime, and then Gensler left, and we got like the worst kind of crime, and then we just get like a premature bear market.
Yeah.
We got
You
what we
know,
asked for.
Reap what you sow, in a way.
Yeah, it's like we kind of did it to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think things will be fine. Really, the group that got wiped out the hardest was ultimately retail, which, retail was probably the one who was clamoring the most for Gensler to kind of back down. And I guess, yeah, it's like you said, Max, you kind of get like the double or the second side of that sword. But I also agree with Jackus. This space is progressively getting there. And I guess it does, in a way, it speaks to the idea that you can't have this massive wave of adoption occur within, this traditional 4-year cycle. It's going to take a much longer period of time before that eventually plays, but it's playing out, and the fact that we're seeing BlackRock file for an ETH staking ETF. I mean, this is something that we talked about back in like 2022. These staking ETFs for ETH were always kind of like the end game for ETH. Not in like the cycle top is is in sort of end game, but more of like, this is going to be the way that over time ETH is going to be continuously achieving these passive flows, and becoming a productive institutionalized asset is going to be through these staking ETFs. So it's a big deal, right? And BlackRock they tell you what they're going to do, not necessarily when they're going to do it. But I do think in general, like from what we've seen from BlackRock, when they tell us they're going to do something with Bitcoin, with Ethereum, and I would imagine potentially other things down the line, those things do end up occurring.
Yeah. I think it's really a matter of timing this thing right now, which is the tough part. And especially right now, I've read posts saying basically 10 things that are going the bullish way, but still sort of the crypto market is bearish, right? So like you have the biggest technological boom since the internet, quite, objectively. You have ongoing Fed interest rate cuts into this AI boom. You have Trump's impeding new Fed chair announcement. Like we know that's going to happen after Powell. He is going to be more dovish. You have 70 billion in annual technological capex. You have the end of quantitative tightening. You have widespread deregulation initiatives by SEC. You have the most market conscious US president ever, pro-crypto president, right? You have 2+ trillion in annual deficit spending. You have 13% on year earnings growth in the S&P, and the return of the global fiscal stimulus. And despite all of these, which is like insane when you put it this way, like market should be ripping straight to the moon basically, but still you're getting this, right? And so that's what's leaving lots of people.
I
Like,
think it all comes down to one thing, Jackus, and you tell me if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Cost of capital is still too high. The one thing that's missing.
Cost of capital is too high, yes. And there are also like, again, like lots of little folks cannot afford stuff. That's totally true. We are seeing these massive layoffs on the other hand by companies, which isn't, I wouldn't say it's like it's also a double-edged sword, right? Because in the past, when you get an unemployment, it was viewed as bearish because less people getting like you would think that economy is doing bad because of the layoffs. You would think that people will have less money to spend and so on. But right now, it's those jobs getting replaced by AI, which makes the companies more effective. But at the same time, you're getting those layoffs, and the question who's gonna buy those. So it's like, I see arguments on both sides. But yeah, I think unlike I'm gonna, since none of you guys jumped in, I'm gonna say one more thing, and it is that there wasn't ever, in my opinion, a better like fundamentally good environment for the space than it is right now. In all the prior bear markets of BTC, like even the tariffs were much worse, like fundamentally speaking, than the current drop. There isn't really much justification you could put beside it. 2022, that was literally like, we were heading into the biggest inflation in 60 years, quickest rate hikes in those 60 years. You had companies imploding from leverage and so forth. You had the second biggest exchange blowing out, like all of that. Right now, it's literally nothing. Like nothing's breaking down. It's just seriously that market lost the momentum, and that's it. So in that sense, I view it very positively going forward. But one must be able to survive this period, which is tough after surviving all the prior periods.
Give me harder battles, Jackus.
What the fuck?
I'm glad you brought up the cost of capital, because I do think that plays a huge role in the expansion of risk assets. And we're going to get some clarity on that later this week. Obviously, with FOMC, it seems like they're going to be cutting rates. The question is, what are yields going to do? Because right now we are seeing the 10-year up % on the day. I think that's pretty notable. I also think it's pretty notable that Scott Bessent is memeing about buying treasuries, and treasuries are not going higher. They're dumping. So, I mean, the market's kind of calling the admin's bluff about these lower rates. It's funny because we need a strong economy, because that's been the narrative that's propped up the entire bull market. But at the same time, if we're cutting rates into a strong economy, yields can go higher, or at least real yields. And that's what we really need to come down for risk assets to see more aggressive upward pricing, is you need to see rates come down.
Did you call Scott Bessent the admin?
He's part of the admin, yeah.
Oh, you're saying administration. I interpreted it more as like a Discord admin, like the guy in charge or something. I don't know. I spend too much time on Discord, I think.
He's a Discord admin.
Yeah. Personal issue. Yeah. Dude, what if the White House has a Discord, like a paid Discord, and Trump's like, I'm about to tweet something. Get positioned at Trump alert.
I mean, clearly that has happened. Maybe not like explicitly in that manner, but World Liberty Fi guys are always positioned for these big moves.
Oh yeah.
Must be nice.
Must be nice.
Must be nice.
So we think yield 10 years going higher, which historically is bearish for risk assets.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It is hard. Obviously, capital is more expensive, but I want to say that the tech bubble happened with yields being yields were rising during the tech bubble, right?
See, I'm just from a naked eye here, I could tell that they were rising hard during the 2022, 2023 bear market. But let's go to the tech bubble. Yeah, I guess they were.
So it's not damning necessarily.
But I guess you could say they were in a weekly down, like they were technically in a downtrend though. It was like a bounce in a downtrend, but I guess you could say. But yeah. Well, when did the dot-com bubble actually burst? Like 2000?
Yes, the NASDAQ is going to be the better reflection of when it burst than the S&P. I'm trying to think of when exactly that was. I think it was 2000.
Yeah. Sheesh, look at that drop.
Nasty.
That's a nice shoulder. Wish I was around to short that.
That is a nice shoulder, man. You know what the funny thing about that though is, Louis?
What?
We did retail wasn't even trading really back then.
I know.
We wouldn't have had Trading View to even spot that shoulder, man. We would have had to call our broker after hand drawing all the candles on a graph chart.
That's how they used to do it.
Hey, I think there's a shoulder forming. I've been reading the newspaper every day and stenciling out the open, close, high, low values, and
we'd be faxing each other charts.
We
sold
hand-drawn charts.
Multi-decade bubble based on vibes.
It's real. Well, I don't know, man. I just don't know if I'm super confident in the bottom being in on crypto here. I feel like there's been some decent absorption down towards the lows, but ultimately it's just not looking like a bottom is I haven't seen many bottoms put in that look like this for crypto.
I would say we're looking more like a bear flag right now.
Yeah, I mean it does, and that's the problem is usually, you like to look for signs of accumulation when you think the bottom is in, meaning they kind of walk it lower, sweeping lows, but seeing big sell volume, unable to materially impact price, things like that. And what we have here is just a bunch of vulnerable lows with decent sell volume, and this also been paired with some negative funding, which I do like to see. But to me, it doesn't feel kind of textbook accumulatory. It feels a little bit more like this might be the kind of dead cat bounce walk up before it maybe turns into an accumulation, which I'm open to. But it kind of looks like a bear flag in the simplest of terms, if I'm being honest. So
yeah, definitely. And the funny part is if you just take the simple, textbook TA 101, you just take the measured move for a bear flag like this, it kind of takes us to that area that we've been talking about, that 60 to 70K level.
Yeah,
perfectly tagged with this measured move. If this is a bear flag, and I would say again something I've been talking about a lot, the canary in the coal mine, I guess, or the I don't know the phrase I'm looking for here, but the outlier here for me is equities. They still have me very concerned.
Yeah.
To see what we've seen out of Bitcoin and crypto, massive sell-off, massive liquidity event here. To not see equities flinch off of that, it doesn't really make much sense to me, unless this is an outlier like move for Bitcoin and crypto alone. But that it's kind of hard to believe for me. And it's looking almost identical to what we saw beginning of this year, end of 2024 or early 2025, kind of almost identical, right? Like equities looked heavy going into the end of the year. They saved it, right? We started making like minor higher highs, like fresh all-time highs here. This is obvious distribution. And during this time period, like right around here, Bitcoin started its descent. So equities were ranging, technically making all-time highs. And Bitcoin was already on its move down. Then you saw equities finally catch up, and then you saw that kind of final plunge out of Bitcoin and altcoins. And by the time you got this last major plunge out of equities, Bitcoin and altcoins are pretty much bottomed already during this kind of last capitulation to the downside. So that's kind of why I'm saying, like, I think equities have a move down to come. Sure, we'll see the effects in Bitcoin and crypto if we do get that catch-up move to the downside initially. But I think they're much closer to bottoms, specifically the altcoins, if and when we get this, right? If we get a catch-up move to the downside out of equities like we saw here, where Bitcoin and altcoins led this move to the downturn by a month or so, which is kind of where we're at now. We're at like that month and a half time period. We'll get that next move down. And until we do, like, equities either one have to start to really melt up and start to accelerate to the upside. If we see that, maybe we're bottomed and we bottom from here or around these levels and go, great. I'll get back into the crypto market. But history and data is telling me that we have a move to the downside coming for equities first, and then I'll feel a lot more confident starting to bid, looking for that reversal. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, if that is the case, Louis, of us doing that, think about how much time in front has crypto been front running equities? Because in the past, BTC front run equities just by a few weeks, but this time it's just been too far ahead. Far ahead.
Put this on. So last time, in the beginning of 2025, I guess you could say this was the top when we started. Bitcoin started heading down January 31st, started its descent. Equities actually, while Bitcoin was heading to the downside, made fresh all-time highs while Bitcoin was already heading to the downside. And then equities finally topped just about a month later.
20 days,
yeah. So right now, you could say we're actually a little past that, right? I guess we technically topped Bitcoin here in October. We're in December, so we're about 2 months of Bitcoin going to the downside along with altcoins, and you still have equities ranging here. That's why I'm kind of in the camp where if equities are going to roll, and Tommy has touched on this as well, it's got to be probably within the next couple of weeks. If not, they might just melt up, right? And that's fine too. But we're kind of coming into that quad witching hour that Tommy has touched on. I would actually like to know, like, what's the why do they call it that? Like, yeah, what does it mean pretty much?
It's like the expiration date for like 4 quarterly sectors of the market. So like futures, options, etc. It's just like a big positioning thing. I was reading that like historically we bottom into quad witching or like around quad witching, or we see trend reversals. So I don't know that I quite think we're going to see a trend reversal lower on equities. Well, let me rephrase. Like, I don't think we're going to just hang up here and then after quad witching reverse down on equities. I think you would see that downside happen before the 19th. And if that is the case, probably a bottom during that dump. But yeah, no, I think that equities right now are in a very binary spot where liquidity is coming back into the market. There are still risks present in the market, though, at the same time that we can't discount. So how are we going to trade realistically over the next 2 weeks with all of these catalysts, and then maybe reassess from there? I am getting more cautiously optimistic that we can begin to form a bottom here, but I'm not guaranteeing that yet. I want to be clear. I am becoming more bullish, but I am still holding some positioning specifically into quad witching because I do think those risks in the market are still present. I think this week is a big one, though, right? If we get a rate cut and the market just gaps up like above 7K S&P, then it's really difficult for me to be overly bearish. And I think at that point, it's probably okay. This liquidity drain or this period of liquidity draining from the market hit crypto because it's more sensitive to those changes. But it didn't actually affect equities.
What is quad witching?
I was just saying it's like the expiration of 4 different like instruments to bet on the market at one time. So you have like futures, you have options. It's like four types of derivative contracts: stock, futures, stock options, like single stock futures, and I'm missing one in there, but there's just a bunch of positioning that comes off, and so as a result, like if you get these volatile moves into quad witching, that can be exacerbated because of the positioning and because of potential unwinds into that date.
Mm-hmm.
So could see volatility elevated in both directions into the 19th. I think it's a very important period for the market.
Yeah, like we touched on this a couple weeks ago, where like there's a lot of institutions, hedge funds that probably sitting on some nice gains for the year, right? And if they do start to see some weakness and some roll here, are they going to stick around and eat that drawdown, or are they going to close positioning to close the year, and save their gains, right? And
are you talking about a pit roll, Louis?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I talked about this on Friday where, S&P capped up. Everyone was like, oh, yep, equity is still really strong. Now we're starting to see, a little roll here, right? We got a little, and this is low time frame stuff, right? So it doesn't hold too much weight, but it kind of just more or less confluence for my views here, where like if this is a deviation of the high, they also swept this high here. If they just deviated this high on Friday, and now we're getting back below and we can't get back above heading into this quad witching like Tommy's talking about, I think you see a move down, and then like equity bulls need to see this blue zone hold, because if it doesn't and you get back below here, this looks like a trap here and some false hope. If you get back below here, I'd watch out. I'd be very cautious if you're sitting in equity longs.
Yeah, you kind of think what happens to crypto really if equities drop, sub those lows that you have on the chart right now. Like what we saw in April was again that crypto front run, and then when there was the biggest blow in equities, crypto didn't follow that much, but it still followed, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we get that final plunge that we're looking for. And I think once we get that, everyone's going to look at the equity market. Everyone's really going to want to be risk off. And then at that point, I think Bitcoin and altcoins are actually going to be way closer to their lows than most people think, right? That's kind of how I'm looking at it. And I could be totally wrong. Equities can roll and keep rolling, and Bitcoin and altcoins get absolutely crushed as well. So you kind of got to look for that evidence of a reversal. Obviously, don't blindly bid it, but historically we've seen that, you get that initial downturn again, Bitcoin and alts, maybe we get that Bitcoin level down into that 60, 70K range. You get altcoins taking that those final moves to the downside. Some altcoins probably maybe not even making new lows, kind of just ranging around where they are. Everyone's going to be extremely risk off, looking at the equity markets, looking super weak. They're going to be more in fearful mode after the downturn occurs. And that's when, probably peak buying opportunities, I think, is what I'm going to be looking for.
What do we think about the Bitcoin yearly candle? Is it going to close bearish or bullish?
Talk about a time frame that I don't look at that I probably should. Oh my God, that's quite the wick. That doesn't look horrible though.
Didn't
No.
he break the pattern? Isn't the
I
pattern?
mean, it could look way worse, I think, than that.
Louis, can you
Like
go to the
if-
full chart, like the crypto chart? Because I think there was a pattern that we've talked about before, right? Isn't it like 3 green, 1 red? That's kind of
Yeah.
been like the cyclical
3 year
pattern.
up, 1 year down, which if we close bearish, then it breaks it.
Can you put it in log, Louis, so we can see the yeah, so except for the first cycle, I guess. But so in recent cycles it's been 1 red, 3 green. So if we don't close this yearly green, then that I wouldn't put the utmost weight in it, right? But that would be different.
It therefore breaks the narrative.
It definitely gives you something to think about. Yes.
Log.
This is scary. When you look at it like this.
What I would like to see for Bitcoin to confirm a bottom is for it. I think I've already said it on this show, but I'd like to see a move into like the low 100s and then a kind of an attempt to form a double bottom at 80K or maybe slightly below the lows. If I were to see that, I would feel much more confident in this market resuming the bullish uptrend. If we do not see that, the one thing I really don't want to see is Bitcoin forming like some shallow shoulder, kind of unable to break above like 91 to 92K in the same way that it has been over the last few weeks. Because then that just says, all right, the trend down is still really, really strong. And we're probably loading the last leg down within this downtrend. And it is likely going to be very painful, especially for altcoins. When we look at their market structures, there are some altcoins that look horrible. Right. I mean, we've kind of already pointed this out on the show. There are some altcoins that look good, too. I mean, I think that also needs to be pointed out. A lot of meme coins are bouncing very, very strongly to start the week. It is Monday, so we don't want to read too much into it. But something like Fartcoin looks great.
That's what we need, Tommy. Like the very last thing this space truly need is meme coins out of this bouncing strong. So
you
much
don't like meme coins.
If meme coins are bouncing literally zero.
Dude, I think we need meme coins to bounce because sentiment is so bad.
No, we need meme coins to either die or stay flat. We need quality to bounce, and then meme coins can follow. If meme coins are bouncing here, it's like literally the last bit of liquidity getting squeezed, and that's it.
You're just a hater.
All right.
No, I agree with you, Jack. I agree with you. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that markets are probably anticipating a rate cut this week. Meme coins always run on the weeks that we've had rate cuts, at least as far as I can remember. I'd also remember Fartcoin bottoming before the rest of the market in March. So that might be something to watch out for, but other than that, I do agree with the general sentiment that like meme coins as an asset class leading the market higher, probably
Yeah.
not that constructive.
No. You don't want to see that, honestly. Like, I think meme coins are great. Like, I've always had fun speculating on Doge in prior cycles, but it's always been Doge complementing the rest of the market, not Doge leading the market. And yeah, it is what it is.
What do you think about the ETH BTC strength here, Jackus? Because I mean, the chart, I don't know if it has officially set its floor. I wouldn't say that like that pattern is. If we zoom out, it kind of looks like a higher low. When I zoom in, it's not really the type of structure that I would trust to set the low. I do think in general, though, whenever ETH Bitcoin does kind of officially bottom and set its new macro higher low, that's going to be kind of like the inflection point. Time to bid alts against Bitcoin. I don't know if you agree with that, but what do you think about the ETH Bitcoin strength here?
I think it's really just a bounce. I think it makes sense that ETH BTC is holding somewhat strong because it's honestly getting bit by lots of institutions. Like that's a fact that's happening. So it makes sense. It should like ETH really needs to hold, not literally right here, but in like the macro 5-year long range. I still think that ETH BTC can easily, and I think it will still drop somewhat lower, perhaps up 0.03. But yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense here on this bounce, that ETH BTC is bouncing with it, but I don't think it changes much.
I do agree with you, Tommy, with the idea of like if we are going to see some cyclical continuation here, I feel like we're about to like enter an ETH cycle, where Bitcoin had institutions coming in a couple years ago. ETH really has just kind of, I mean, there's been some like big money interest in ETH, but not to the likes of like a Tom Lee. He's basically the Michael Saylor of ETH. That's new. That's very new for Ethereum. So I think if we are going to see cyclical continuation, it's likely going to be concentrated on ETH, and we should see this chart move higher. But I just don't know how I feel about the whole market. I feel like it's feeling unresolved to me. That doesn't mean, again, like I'm a doomer. It doesn't mean like I think we're about to enter like a multi-year bear market. It just means like I think there's potentially some upside that could be played. Maybe it comes before we go back down to the lows, maybe not, but I will just continue to say the best way to summarize how I'm feeling about this market is it's just an unresolved bottom. We're seeing some good signs, like we've had spurts of negative funding. That's good. So there's been some absorption at the lows. We've seen huge selling with price unable to really go down a ton. We've seen, again, some meme coins and beta moving higher, like good signs of maybe local bounces. But I really just am feeling like the only word to sum up my thoughts is like it feels unresolved, but that doesn't mean we need to nuke to 35K on Bitcoin. Okay. But it just doesn't feel like if we're going to bottom, it would be from right here, personally.
Yeah, I mean, ETH BTC and Bitcoin dominance, the charts are what have me thinking and leaning towards that altcoins are actually closer to a bottom than most think. And that if we do get this final roll, or even if we're bottomed here, that they will outperform on the next move to the upside. Because we just never seen that part of the cycle yet, whether we're talking in cycles anymore or not. You could say the same thing for the stock market. Like all the major indices indexes have ran, right? But the Russell hasn't, right? Looking like it wants to soon. And maybe it comes out of like the craziest, weirdest of environments where it makes sense to be max bearish and fearful and risk off, and then all of a sudden out of that environment we get the risk on for the high beta assets. So does it make sense? Not really. But the Bitcoin dominance chart and the ETH BTC chart are kind of hinting at that as of now. ETH BTC to me kind of looks like it's trying to reclaim this macro range, right? Whether you want to compare it to what we saw in 2021, where we danced around here and then finally got, created this range and went to the upside. It looks like, we had a nice run. We were cooling off. If ETH BTC can find its footing in this area, whether it takes one more drop or not, and reestablishes back inside this multi-year range after deviating it, I'm looking for a move back inside the range. So that's what kind of does have me optimistic on altcoins and ETH, but I just think that there is one more, time period of a little more downside, or in altcoins case, maybe ranging. But I think we are close. So that's what's kind of leaning, like these charts are what's kind of giving me the information that I need to kind of give me that thesis. But we'll see how it plays out.
One coin we haven't talked about today is I'd actually like to talk about two of them, are Sol and BNB.
Tommy's favorite.
Those are Tommy's favorites. Even last cycle, man, I remember. Like bear market, we were looking at I think Tommy called it the CZ Sam pair. Everyone has their favorite pair,
True. What is yours, Max?
Something like BNB is,
except the ones behind you, of course. But like, what is your favorite to chart or trade?
Mine?
Kaspa, right? It's a Kaspa. I remember Kaspa.
I've had a couple this cycle. I'd say mine change a little bit more. I would say that mine are more like, like Pepe Doge, like obscure kind of meme pairs. But I would say as we've transitioned out of conditions that are conducive to those doing anything but going down, I would say generally I spend quite a bit of time looking at like ETH BTC, not to be boring, but a lot of just kind of ETH BTC, and then I'll also look at like Sol ETH, Sol BTC. But when things get frothy, I like to look at the exotic pairs. Right now, I will also include like Bitcoin NASDAQ and Bitcoin Gold and Bitcoin SPX, just because I think those paint a pretty clear picture on like the direction of the market.
I think somebody's got an echo.
Yeah.
Who does?
What if it's you, Tommy? What if you're the echo?
It's not. I have the YouTube stream on, but it's muted, so I know it's not me. I would probably say Sol is mine. Oh gosh, I still hear that echo.
I think it's Jackus. I'm sorry, Jackus. I think it's you. Yeah.
Definitely cannot be me.
Are you Helium Jackus now?
I have eco cancellation on my.
Oh, no, it's
totally Jackus. So much, yeah. It's you, Jackus.
I would say Sol. Yeah, Sol is definitely that asset for me that I like to chart it, because it consistently gives you such good signal. I know it's been in a range for almost 2 years at this point, but the pairs Sol ETH and Sol BTC, I just think are very clear, and Sol USD has always kind of front ran the trends that we see in other majors. So
yeah.
Is the eco still going on?
Jackus, you're totally helium right now, man. You need
Really?
to- yeah.
Let's
yeah.
go.
You need to take
No,
a look at that.
let's keep going this way and let's do a serious TA with this voice. It's going.
Oh my
Is
goodness.
it still on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, let's go.
Boy,
I
that is strange. That is so funny how that happens to you. It used
I
to happen a lot more, if I remember correctly.
But it never happened. I think it never happened on YouTube. It only happens on Discord. And I still have no idea how like to turn it on and off.
It usually happens in Discord, guys. Like once in a while in Discord, Jackus will like it just sounds like this. Like he'll be talking normally and then just like boom out of nowhere. So funny.
What do you guys think about hype here? Obviously, the structure does not look good, but do we think it's going to be more of like, has it bottomed? Is it going to be more of a slow bleed down into demand? Are we looking at maybe a more aggressive puke coming?
Tommy, I really liked the example you gave on the Discord call this morning to Soul, where Soul was consensus as it was kind of a layup to do what ETH did in the previous cycle. And then it went to $8. Everybody got fudded out of it. And you could have been right on that idea, but early. I think hype feels similar to me from memory, comparing it to Soul last cycle. Hottest L1, layup, everybody's so bullish on it. Where could their conviction be tested? Are you early to the idea that hype is a layup? I don't know. I look at this structure and to me it feels like, again, kind of an unresolved pattern, right? Where this doesn't look like how I would expect a bottom to look, right? Anything can happen. If suddenly this thing flies back above, $38 and shifts structure to the upside. I'm putting Jackus on mute as he's having a lot of background noise. I think if hype does something like that, Louis, exactly, then I think you can say, all right, your hopes and dreams of buying Soul, under $20 have come and gone. But if that doesn't happen, this to me feels like kind of a shoulder that's sliding, like a very slow motion slide. And yeah, like, look, I'm a buyer of hype. Probably, I think if Bitcoin did do some sort of rug down to, let's just say like mid 70s, right? Swept the current low, you'd probably see hype put in a very quick drop, even sub 20, I would think. Like there's a demand zone from March and April of this year. It's a little lower than that line, Louis. Keep going. Keep going. Right there. I think that would be a pretty decent area if the market does continue to slide. Does it continue to slide? We'll see, right? We'll see. But yeah, just kind of walking through, how I'm viewing things here. So
I honestly don't know why you guys have a problem with my voice and my echo. I mean, it's totally fine. But yeah, I think ever since the echo started, it's when the helium voice also started. So I'll just restart now. Sorry.
Yeah, I like hype down in here. I think if you get this, it's a buy. Then you look for something like that.
Testing out.
Oh, there you go. Now you sound good.
Yeah, and the eco's probably gone too.
Wait. Is this for real? Just 4 likes? Hang on. There's
No.
no way. There's no way we have 4 likes on the stream. There's just no way.
That's bait.
I would immediately disconnect, like immediately.
No, we have 40. We have 43, which is still horrible. Let me just be super clear. That's still awful. There's nothing to be proud of. But it's a
How
lot
many do
better
we
than
have?
4. I think you need to refresh your YouTube. But yeah, I mean, still 43 is pathetic, you know, if we're being honest. But at least Jackus won't immediately rage quit, which would be valid, right? Which would be very much so valid. So
Maybe it's because we haven't charted soybean for a while.
I think the problem that we have with soybeans in general is that I think that they actually like soybeans, you know?
Maybe they are waiting for it.
Wasn't Besant saying that he owns a soybean farm?
Dude, soybeans actually looked good, which is the funny thing. Like,
Funny or sad?
they looked like they were accumulating.
The soy boys are trying to make a comeback. Well, what else? What else?
ETH does look a bit more resilient than Bitcoin here, but that's also a very dangerous thing to say out loud, right? That's a
Definitely.
very dangerous thing to start talking about how ETH looks better than Bitcoin. It has been all cycle.
The famous last words. He
Yeah.
looks better than Bitcoin. Boom.
They're such famous words, man. It is like the most famous thing you can possibly say. Like your final words are, wow, like alts actually are holding up much better than Bitcoin here. That's like, oh, he gonna learn today. I mean, you never want to be that guy. Sometimes it's true, but usually you end up looking like a complete idiot when you say that. Trust me, I've tried. I speak from experience, but yeah, it's here. I want to show you guys this new script. I've more or less finished it. I was showing you guys on the morning call. This shows real net positioning. Here, I'll add on more exchanges, but this shows actual like net positioning on Binance, Bybit, OKX, Coinbase, and Kraken. So what you can see here is like these dark green, and the dark green is where like the most actual like net delta, like buy delta came in. So going back to, you know, where this map begins here on November 13th, like from the breakdown, you can see that there's a lot of buying that has come in right here. And then also a bit down here at the lows. So what I'm not liking the most right now is that a decent bit, actually a majority of our buying on this bounce has actually come in up here, as you can see. So like all this buy delta came in, billions of net longs have come in between 91 and 94. And now they're basically all kind of underwater. And the yellow is some single prints where basically like they're just FVGs, right? So when I look at this, you know, this profile of like the last breakdown to this bounce, you know, it seems pretty obvious to me that people have gotten a bit frothy up here towards 94. And now they're all, you know, effectively underwater. There's also some big shorts that are protecting positions here under 90. So, I do worry. And we also have some single prints down here at the lows. And that's just, it just kind of all fits into my bias of like, I'm feeling like it's unresolved here. A lot of buyers came in towards the top side of this local range, right? Even if we just break it down like this and we say, all right, this is our like local range, right? You can see here, let me make it a little thicker. Here's our local range. Most of the buying that we've seen, like active, like net longs, right? There's buying everywhere, but like
Is
when
this
candles
spot or
close,
leverage or both?
this is both. I've aggregated 5 exchanges. So this is perps and spot.
Nice.
This region is where the majority of the longs have actually come in. The aggressive longs have come in right here. And now all of them are effectively underwater as of the sell-off today. So that's not good, right? That can lead towards, more aggressive downside. So definitely something kind of locally to consider here. So just wanted to point that out. And then also on like the higher time frame, I can show you, this is a really interesting view here. So look at this range. This shows all the actual like net positioning at each level, where and what amount of buying and selling has occurred at each level. There is a ton of longs that have attempted to buy right here between essentially 89 and 92. A ton of attempted longs here. And we also have some single prints right down here. Again, unresolved single prints, right? So these single prints, they typically tend to get backfilled and kind of act as magnets. So when I look at this, the entirety of this profile here, I say, where is price likely navigating towards? Well, we would squeeze above this red zone right here, where the majority of the shorting has actually come in under 95, right? And we're kind of wedged between like buyers are trying to save it here, sellers are trying to protect positions here. Sellers have the upper hand now because they're technically in profit. But also right below this April low, we have some serious high time frame single prints right at this like really obvious, SR level, just like across all these highs right here, and below this April low. So it just feels a bit unresolved to me. That doesn't mean we need to like nuke and it's a multi-year bear market, but I think that looking at like the actual positioning aggregated amongst multiple exchanges, spot and futures, is painting a pretty kind of unresolved picture to me here, right? Where the majority of the short positions come in. Actually, there were plenty of shorts up here, right? But ultra high time frame, a lot of shorts came in, under 95. Buyers are trying to step in here, but it's looking a little bit unresolved. You can get this data. I've made a bunch of really great scripts. I give them out to our community. So, the short answer would be join the community, and you get like 30 of my custom scripts, including this one. This one hasn't been released. I've been working on this one. I just kind of wrapped it up this morning. But yeah, they're really great and really helpful. And quite frankly, there is no second best. So join the community. But yeah, it's it just paints, when you actually are able to see like the net positioning, how much buying and selling actually came in at each level. You can see pretty clearly what's going on. Shorts are
bought the high of the bounce.
Yeah, and look at the amount of buys that came in like at the highs right here, like this level. Right up here, like look at how many longs came in here. That led to this sell-off, right? And then they tried again to long here. Sold off more. They're trying to long again right here. I think we're getting closer to some resolution, but it's pretty clear to me. what we're looking at. So shouldn't we need this guy Solomon? Shouldn't we need two for a more pronounced complacency shoulder for that to happen, Max? It's possible, right? It's definitely possible. You can see here looking more granularly, excluding this whole structure, just like, the most recent, top to where we are now. There is definitely a chance we can move up from here, right? There's some single prints right here that kind of act as magnets that are, protected by this huge excess of selling that happened at, 102 to basically 100 to 102. Like this could be possible, right? Like this isn't off the table. And then maybe we come down, fill in these single prints down here. But, it still is painting it still is painting a pretty, in my view, kind of unresolved picture, even if we were to bounce up into this, these single prints, the yellow boxes. So we can add on these bars too, just so you can see the difference easily and how much this is delta, not total volume. So this is like at this level, there was, 185 billion in net shorts, 170 billion in net shorts. We also did have some bottom shorters, shorting below 86 quite a bit. But again, you can pretty clearly see, like, if we were to even bounce, like, it'd likely be up to, 97 or something like that. Turn the heat map off for a second. You can pretty clearly see kind of like where the positional overhangs are. Look how much buying there was up here at the highs.
Those treasury companies, man.
They were aping the highs. You can see like the net positioning up here was insane, man. Like all this green, like so many longs came in above, 115, 118. And I mean, dude, look at the highs here. Like you can see right up here. I'll just draw it manually, like this level specifically. Look at how many longs we had. We had almost 300 billion in net longs enter above 122.5, So again, you've got a lot of aggressive shorts that are like deep in the money on their positions. And it just feels a bit unresolved to me. Let me actually take a look at IBIT here, and we'll turn off the aggregation. So we're just looking at we're just going to look at IBIT here. Oh my gosh, man. Look at the IBIT profile here, man. This is even worse, dude. Talk about what Tommy
Good buy
said.
delta there, though, at the lows.
Yep. That's good as well, right? There's definitely some buying here. But I mean, you can see the amount of long delta that came in literally at the Schmico top. They shoved this breakout candle, and then the sell delta, a lot of shorts just deep in the money from right at this level, and down here it's more of a mixed basket for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's, there was just so many longs that came in up above, up above this range high. So let me go back a little further, actually. See, when you go back further here, though, it's let me turn the heat map back on here. Higher time frame, including this whole structure back here in November of 2024. there was quite a bit of buying that occurred, before this breakdown. So, a lot of longs still kind of underwater, unfortunately. So it just kind of helps to spot the I'll use the aggregated view again. So I think what I would really want to see for, a bottom to be in, let's kind of replay this a little bit here. Like what you really want to see is like a structure like this form where, you see a lot of you see some sweeps of the lows like this, and you see huge buy delta come in on like an attempted breakdown, right? That's that's what you want to see, is attempted breakdown, huge buy delta comes in right at these lows, and then then longs are positioned with the upper hand, right? Because they bought at the lows, not buying towards the highs of even like a local range, where right now I wouldn't really argue we've seen a ton of like longs positioning in the correct manner. Not yet. You've seen a bit, right? You've seen some, but I think you want to see like a forced breakdown attempt. You want to see a forced breakdown attempt for sure. And then you see that met with just absorption, just buyer step in when it looks really grim. It doesn't look horrible. It just doesn't look resolved in my view. Like this is the thing that I don't love, is specifically this level. Like you're seeing a lot of buying right here, like this level, which has all come in on this bounce,
Man, that's a very obvious level the market needs to clear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sailor doing all the buying. Degenerate. I think his average price is 75K now, for the record.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you look at this profile again, like look at this, man. Like look at the amount of longs that have attempted to buy like right in this region, and like they're all struggling right now, Like if you really wanted to see this thing, like the bottom be in, you would have wanted to see this be like, a ton of long delta come in like right here. Then longs are in a position of strength, where right here they're in a position of weakness. Like they're battling to get their head above water. So hi boys, loving the stream. Could you look at the USDT dominance? It looks a lot like a Wyckoff accumulation schematic 2, almost identical, to be honest. I don't know what a schematic 2 is, but I could look for like an accumulation or distribution. USDT dominance. Okay. Let's look at it. So yeah, I assume you're talking about like this right here, like this thing, like looking like an accumulation. I would agree this looks pretty like bullish, right? Which would be bearish for crypto. So like range, deviation, retest of demand, right in here. Here, we can even mark this up fresh. Let's do that. Save these drawings. We'll come back to them later. So maybe just look at it like this. So little deviations, right? Didn't even really go that deep, but like little deviation. And then here, and then retest of demand. And now you're shifting high time frame structure to the top side. Pretty clearly, this feels pretty bullish. Like if this was just like poop coin USDT, I would probably be looking for, this level, assuming it breaks out. Yeah, I mean, this looks pretty bullish, right? I think we can all generally agree this looks like it's trying to break out of a range. And then on top of that, you also left this high here. We didn't even sweep this high. So that kind of feels like even if we are going to get some like move back down and bullish relief, you would at least see like this high get taken first.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like it's the quintessential question surrounding a lot of altcoins right now, right? Like, because if you invert USDT dominance, it looks a lot like these higher beta assets. Total DeFi, I think Total 2, Total 3 look a lot like this chart. Are they going to, pull down further into that demand zone and retrace, what's left of this cycle's pump, or are they going to form some sort of bottom here, an ugly bottom, right? But we have seen Bitcoin bottom from a head and shoulders pattern that was supposed to break down in the past. I distinctly remember 2021, at the very least, when Michael Burry posted the head and shoulders meme of Bitcoin, and it was at the exact bottom.
When you throw on the line chart, I think that the wicks can be a little bit deceiving, but when you just put on the line chart and you look at it, it does feel a little, like you're kind of underneath really like this zone, right? Like this is a pretty important zone on this chart, and you're kind of just floating beneath it. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look the best, right? But I think one thing to consider also, I inverted my colors just for the purposes of discussion. I think one thing you should probably also consider is that like you are at range highs, technically, like you haven't broken out yet, but it does certainly feel like if we were looking at this, if this was like the Bitcoin chart, right, we would be looking at this as like, oh yeah, like breakdown, accumulation, retest, point of origin of breakdown, but hard to know for sure, right?
Big next 2 weeks.
Big week, check week, big week.
Yeah.
All right, well, we are at time. We are at 80 minutes. So I think, Tommy, that is where we end the show today, brother.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Market Check. A reminder that we do these shows Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday throughout the week when the New York Stock Exchange is open. And we typically start these shows around 11:20 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So catch us again on Wednesday. That will be FOMC day, so probably quite a bit of volatility coming throughout this week. Of course, as well, make sure to tune in for Market Talk. That is an afternoon spaces hosted through the Because Bitcoin X account, as well as King Wabi's X account. So make sure to stay following and subscribe so you can be notified when we schedule those or when we start those spaces, but know that we do have a uniform start time now with those going forward. of 3:30 p.m. EST, and you can expect to see many members of the Market Check crew on those spaces on a daily basis. So I'll see you there later this afternoon, guys. But until then, thank you for tuning in. That is it from us. We hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. We'll be back on Wednesday. But until then, guys, thanks. And of course, stay safe.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal.